clear creeks and cool mountain mornings, honest work out in the fields, cornbread in my mama's kitchen, daddy's saying grace before the meal. Family ties run deep in this land, and I'm never very far from what I am. I was born country, and that's what I'll always be, like the river.
Oh, this is good. I don't have to talk very loud. Good afternoon, Arizona. Thanks so much for being here. We're here to help pass the Save America Act. And the volume just went down. There we go. Okay. We are going to kick this party off with an invocation and the national anthem and the pledge, and then we will get into the program. So, I forgot. It's John. John is doing the invocation, and it's John Hassett, right? John, thank you for being here, and thank you for organizing and helping volunteer to get this event going.
I'll just let you know I didn't really ever do very much. I just get credit for it. And I guess that's the same thing we're going to do with the prayer here. We'll say something to God, and then somehow I'll get it in my head that I get the credit for it. So we'll try and remember and stay humble. Sorry for that joke. All right, well, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We thank you for the opportunity to save this country that was founded on your principles. And as we look outside, we see people that don't recognize how this country came to be. They don't recognize what it represents, and we lift them up to you today. We ask that you remove the scales from their eyes, that you just open their hearts to you, and that they allow them to find a relationship with you like we have. And we also just pray for our leadership, and we pray for the world, and just so much going on right now. And we know that it will work out for you in the end. But right now, for us, it can cause a bit of concern. And we ask that you keep us at peace with that you allow us to focus on your mission and save America. And we just pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much, John. And now we're going to do the national anthem, and Robert McNeely is going to lead us in this. You may recognize him from Right Side Broadcasting, which is where he was until this past Wednesday, and he started working for Tea Party Patriots Action, and we are so glad he's part of our team. So, Robert. Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you, Jenny Beth. God bless State 48. Yeah. An honor to be here today. Thank you. Please join me in singing our national anthem and thanking God for this amazing republic that we fight every day to protect and defend. And then we'll go right into the pledge, and I think we'll go this direction. That should work. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I am Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action. Thank you so much for being here. We were in Arizona in August of last year on our bus tour working to pass the SAVE Act. It's now the Save America Act. We want to make sure only American citizens vote in American elections and that we show voter ID when we cast ballots. We have a fabulous lineup of local and state officials who are going to be speaking to you before Scott Pressler and I give our comments. But before we go to those, I wanted to just give Scott a quick opportunity if he wants to welcome everybody before we go to the rest of the program. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Jenny,
All right, that's the way we're going to do it. All right. Okay, so the first person that we have speaking is it Ocean Rosso, who is a voice of the youth. You are right here. Come on up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fate of our nation is resting in your hands. My name is Ocean Rosso, and I'm a youth liberty advocate, and my mission is to preserve freedom for the next generation. I first got started during the 2020 election. I was 10 years old at the time. I'm 15 now. And I vividly remember sitting on my couch watching the election results pour in the evening of the election. I'm sure you guys all remember that. And I had a little booklet opened, and in it I had a map of the United States. And as the results were pouring in, I'd color in each state as the results came in. And I went to bed very confident that evening, right? Red, red, red. I wake up the next morning and all of a sudden I have a bunch of erasing to do because everything had flipped to be blue, blue, blue. And it was at that moment that I realized something is wrong with our system. And it's time for young people to take action. Thank you. So the following election, during the 2022 election here in Arizona, I gathered a bunch of homeschool families to go out to the polls and to bring their children so that they can experience their civic rights, duties, and virtue. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. And then I decided to continue that mission. And during the 2024 election, I knocked thousands of doors in my community. And consistently, the greatest issue that I saw with our base was election integrity. And the greatest issue that I saw with voters when I would go up to their doorstep, they would say, "Why should I vote? I don't know if my vote matters. My vote won't make an impact. My voice won't make an impact." Well, I have the honor of serving as a Turning Point USA chapter president in my community. And we recently discussed the Save America Act, this issue of how are our elections to be run and how are we to vote in those elections. And let me tell you, a lot of these students have different views on all sorts of subjects. It's hard to agree on every issue. But unanimously, they agreed that we should only have citizens voting in our elections. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if a bunch of high schoolers can come to that conclusion, it really is showing of what's going on with our politicians today. You know, our nation was built on the right to vote. This idea that we can get involved in our government, yet consistently the largest issue with our movement, with the Republican Party, is that every time we get power, we throw it to the wayside. We never do anything with it. And if we do not pass this critical piece of legislation, we are not going to win as easily, or perhaps we will not win at all. You know, ultimately, it comes down to this. The proper role of government is to defend our rights. Ronald Reagan once stated that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. I believe this phrase rings true now more than ever, right? When freedom and the very idea of America is threatened by weak leadership from corrupt politicians and sustained by societal apathy and this cultural distraction that we have today. And so ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you, because our government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, the fate of our nation is resting in your hands. The question is, what will you do? Thank you so much. My name is Ocean Rosso. I'm a youth liberty advocate, author of the book Preserving Freedom for the Next Generation, and I am honored to be here with you today. May God bless you all, and may God bless America, and let's pass the Save America Act.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ocean. Great job. Thank you so much. And now we are going to Brick Suit. Normally, I don't get to hear you speak, so I'm so excited. It's so good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, normally you don't get to hear me speak because I've never spoken at an event like this. So I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me, but it's not as bad as that first time you're out there door knocking, and I've done that as well. One thing I just really want to talk with all of you about is we all have a different manner in how we came to be involved in politics today. Now, for me, that story starts back in 2019 when I bought this suit because I had a trip planned to DC, and I wanted to get under the skin of the leftists more than just a Make America Great Again hat. So I bought this wall suit to symbolize my support for border security. So here I am in San Diego one day before my trip, and President Trump announced a rally in Montoursville, Pennsylvania. I checked my calendar, I can make it. It's the third rally I've ever been to. That gentleman back there, Scott Pressler, was there at that rally. So he saw me. That was the first time I ever met him, of course. I went up and shook his hand, and I had changed in the makeshift dressing room, which is also known as the ADA porta potty. That is where, he walked out like that was my Superman moment. I go in there in my street clothes, I come out in the brick suit, and was lucky enough to get a front row seat. The president called me up on stage, and when the president calls you up on stage and you're wearing a brick suit, you just kind of become brick suit. So that's how I got into politics, but all of you know how important the Save America Act is. So I don't really want to convince you about that. You're going to hear a lot of information about that. What I want to do is just encourage you to stay motivated and stay in the fight, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and November. We don't know what's going to happen after that. But if we give up now, it's not going to be good. And all of you are tuned into the message. You are getting the information. And in business, there's this thing they call the last mile. There's a factory that makes a product and they ship it to a warehouse, but somehow it needs to make it to the consumer. And usually that's a store, that's what it used to be, but now maybe it's Amazon Prime or something like that. That's how the good finally gets to the consumer. Now, in politics and for the Save America Act, that good is the information about the act. You guys have that, and you have tremendous reach that Scott doesn't have, that I don't have, that nobody with a social media presence have, because you have reach to your friends, your neighbors, your family, and your coworkers. And that is something that I can't replace, that no one else can. So stay in, stay involved, absorb the message, and be ready to pass it on. And you don't have to be like waving a rag, hey, let me tell you about the Save America Act. People are going to know that you're wise on this, and some of them will approach you for information, but just be ready for it. Stay positive and be ready to relay that, and let's get the Save America Act passed.
Thank you. Brick Suit, you need to do more speeches. Very motivational. We loved it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now we're going to hear from Senator Justine Wotsak, who is also the Vice President of Saving Arizona for Easy AZ.
Hi, everybody. So you might have known me from a lot of my activist legislative work in the Senate here in Arizona. And I think I've played a different part on every role of activism, from knocking doors as a candidate, going to school board meetings and fighting against the tyranny against our children in the schools. I've also served with Turning Point as a manager, working on the door knocking initiatives for Chase the Vote. And I've known Marissa for going on, 9 years now. And upon about 24 hours of meeting her, she took me to DC and said, it's time to get you involved. And so she has been instrumental in what I have in my perspective as a state senator. And I will tell you, we cannot have one without the other. We cannot have activists without the legislators. And I was in the Arizona Freedom Caucus, so we had a very specific way in which we voted, and that was voting no if it was not a good bill. And I relied on people like Marissa and Easy AZ, because from the inside, we're fighting a fight in our seats on the floor of the Senate, on the floor of the House, and we're fighting sometimes other Republicans to get bills stopped or get good bills passed. And it was so wonderful to know that we had her outside with her tent, and she was out there motivating people as they were walking in to go into the gallery, and she's saying, hey, contact your senator, contact your House member, and tell them no. You absolutely vote no on this. And it helped with that inside job and the outside job to get the job done. And so I find EasyAZ as to being just an incredibly valuable tool in our Save America, Save Arizona toolbox. So I wanted to just express to you guys that sitting down and being angry is not working anymore, and you all know that. We also have a lot of people that just have lost faith in the election systems. We have a lot of people that have been oversaturated and overstimulated with the topic of politics. But it is our job as individual representatives of our Constitution to get out there and make sure everybody knows it's their job to get involved. And there are clubs they can go join, there are people they can go and knock on the doors for, but if they just call EasyAZ and get involved with EasyAZ, they can do so much, from postcard writing to making phone calls to texting. There's work to be done, and we will be effective. We have people here right now, Justin Heap in our recorder's office, because of this type of work. And he is the man. This man here is under attack. He's under attack, you guys. And we went, Marissa and I and some of our staff here with EasyAZ, we went to the Board of Supervisors. And they knew we were there, and you know what they did? They made us wait for hours. We were there for 7 hours to get our freedom of speech across. And it is criminal. What they're doing to our elections is criminal. Everybody needs to be at these Board of Supervisors meetings. And I come from Pima County, and I thought it was bad. Maricopa County runs circles again around the Democrats down in Pima County. They are awful, they are tyrannical, and we have to do something about them, and it starts by getting them out of office. So everybody, please get involved. Please contact EasyAZ, and let's join the fight together, and it is an honor to serve you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justine. And now we have the attorney for America First Legal, and also for, are you also the attorney for Justin Heap? Okay, I'm sorry. I just am struggling with that. And he's running for the Legislative District 10 in Arizona. So please join me in welcoming James Rogers. Woo!
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so my name is James Rogers, also known these days as Justin Heap's lawyer, who won against the board. That was a great victory last week when we got that decision. So as was mentioned, I'm here kind of with multiple hats. In my capacity as senior counsel for America First Legal, I need to say that America First Legal is a 501c3 that does not take positions on partisan candidates or bills. But I wanted to give some education on kind of how we got to where we're at. So it actually is already against the law to register to vote as an alien. Big surprise, right? Only citizens can register to vote. And do you know how we authenticate that? So every state has their own voter registration, but there's this thing called the Election Assistance Commission. It's this federal commission that provides the form for registration for federal voting. And what it does is it has a check marks. Are you a citizen? Yes, no. And then it has a little box that says, do you pinky swear you're a citizen? I mean, that's basically what it is. You sign this thing that says, I promise under penalty of perjury that I really am a citizen. But to show you how seriously the EAC took that pinky swear box, they actually misspelled the word, because it says you can be put in jail, you can be fined, you can be deported, and the word fined is actually misspelled. It was misspelled on the form. They didn't even bother to proofread their box. In litigation, I noticed that. We pointed it out in our complaint, and someone must have seen that from the EAC, and they eventually corrected it. So the form now says it correctly. But Arizona is really interestingly placed for this issue because we made it against the law to register. We made it a requirement to prove citizenship to vote in Arizona. In 2004, it was the Proposition 200. And it said you have to be a citizen, you have to provide documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote. Well, these leftist groups sued, and they said that's not fair. You can't do anything different than what the federal form requires, and the federal form does not require proof of citizenship. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, an opinion by Justice Scalia, said, you know what, these leftists, they're right. The federal law the Constitution gives Congress the authority to regulate federal elections, and it requires that states have to accept the federal form. So what the Supreme Court said is, Arizona, you can do whatever you want with state and local elections, but you have to use that form for federal elections. So we have this weird bifurcated system in Arizona where you have to prove citizenship to vote for state and local elections, but not for federal elections. And so in Arizona, I haven't checked the numbers in a while, but it was about 50,000 people who hadn't fulfilled those requirements to register to vote, which raises the question, why would you register to vote and then exclude yourself from being able to vote in all these, basically most of the elections that are available for decision? Some of those people are students and other things. There's reasons people haven't, but some of those people who have registered to vote are not citizens. We can be sure of that because some of them have actually been found. So in 2024, America First Legal, representing Easy AZ, we sued Maricopa County, asking because Arizona. Later on, the legislature passed more laws requiring more vetting of people who hadn't proved citizenship. The recorders were supposed to check over and do things to verify all those federal-only voters. And we sued because there's this database that DHS has. It's also called the SAVE database. And I wrote this down because I always forget it. It stands for Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. There's actually this database from DHS. You can put in information, and it'll tell you if the person's a citizen or not. And so we sued, asking for an order from the court requiring the recorder to start using it. This was Recorder Richer, by the way. That got litigated, and eventually we added all the other counties and sued them, and all those counties agreed to start checking the SAVE database. And Recorder Heap's going to be speaking, and he can speak more to this, but they have used that database, and they have found aliens registered to vote, and some of them have voted in elections. And so this is a problem that Arizona, we're the front lines of this because we were the first state to do it, and we are the state with the strictest requirements. And part of the problem that we have as a state is because there's no federal requirements about it, is we have this weird, bifurcated system. So with the SAVE Act, what the SAVE Act would do is require every state to require proof of citizenship for voting in federal elections, which just makes sense, right? So I just wanted to let you guys know some of the things America First Legal is doing on this front. We've actually filed a petition for rulemaking with the Election Assistance Commission. President Trump issued an executive order telling the EAC, hey, redo your forms, because the EAC, they can actually just change their form and require proof of citizenship to vote, and then all the states have to start using it. And there were these lawsuits, and the judges said, no, President Trump, you can't tell the Election Assistance Commission what to do because they're an independent agency. Apparently they didn't take high school civics where they learned we have 3 branches of government and they're part of the executive branch. But so what AFL did is we filed a petition for rulemaking. There's this law called the Administrative Procedure Act that says you can file a petition with an agency and ask them to adopt a rule. And so we filed this petition with the EAC saying, hey, we're asking you ourselves, apart from this litigation whether President Trump can order you, you have to respond to us and answer our petition. So they put the petition up for comments. I think it got something like 300,000 comments eventually. Almost all of them were in favor of saying, hey, this makes sense, and then the leftists figured out towards the end, and then the comments came in. We're still waiting for them. They've never received a petition with that many comments, and so they haven't ruled on it yet, which they need to. We're going to take action on that. And then just recently, President Trump issued a new executive order saying, hey, Postal Service, you need to start marking ballots. Anything that's mailed, ballots that are sent in the mail have to have a special barcode so they can be tracked. You have to get a list from the states, and you can only send ballots out to people who states have confirmed have verified their citizenship and are eligible to vote. And once again, they sued, saying, President Trump, you can't tell the Postal Service what to do. They're an independent agency. So we filed a new petition for rulemaking with the Postal Service. I learned so much about the law that regulates the Postal Service, and I think that thing's airtight. So stay tuned on that. Anyway, so the SAVE Act, though, solves those problems because if Congress passes this, then it's a lot easier than these other workarounds to just do something that is so common sense. So now just quickly changing, hats. So it's also mentioned I'm running for the State House in LD10. Thank you. So that's East Mesa, Apache Junction. If you live there, please vote for me. We used to have in the legislature 3 election integrity lawyers. We had Jacqueline Parker, who's left the legislature. We had Justin Heap, who's gone on to bigger and better things as our recorder. And then Alex Colladon, who's now running for Secretary of State. Which means, though, next session we will have no election integrity lawyers in the legislature unless I win. And with Governor Biggs, this is our chance to fix things. So please, if you want to know more about me, go to jamesrogersaz.com. Would appreciate, any help you can give. So just check that out. You can see, what I'm all about. But thank you very much.
James, thank you. And thank you for all the work that you are doing and for representing Easy AZ and in working to get this situation with the voter rolls cleaned up here in Arizona. As someone who does not live in Arizona, I appreciate it because what happens in Arizona, like what happens in Georgia and Pennsylvania right now, because the swing state status really makes a difference with the entire country, especially when it comes to presidential elections. So thank you. What James was just saying about your state and the law here in your proposition that required proof of citizenship to register to vote, that's actually what led, and the Supreme Court decision that he just was talking about, that's what led to us working on the Save America Act. So store that information, and when I speak later, I'm going to give you the history on how that came about and why it's so important. But now, more important than that, you've got the Maricopa recorder, Justin Heap, and he's speaking next. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just sit down. Because look, really grateful to be here. I think this is such an important topic. So, look, as James told you, I served in the legislature. I was also a Freedom Caucus member. We worked really hard in the legislature to try to address a lot of the issues at the state level that the SAVE Act is designed to address, trying to strengthen our election systems as we went. And what I eventually found, and the reason that I decided, well, I got to go run for the recorder's office. Believe me, it was not on my bucket list to be Maricopa County recorder. I don't imagine it's anybody's. But after multiple years of trying to fix elections through the legislative process, it became very clear to me that ultimately it didn't really matter what our legislators did if we didn't have elections officials that were willing to follow the law that was passed. And that is where I think we found ourselves. And we had been through now, 4 years of Stephen Richer, and before him, our current Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, was the secretary. And I think with a lot of the things that they had done, the processes, the things they had put in place, had done tremendous damage, not just to the system itself, but also to the confidence of the voters in what you could feel. So I decided, look, if you really want to change and address the concerns of the people, you've got to be the guy in the office who's working. Now, I would love to say I was elected and it's been smooth sailing. As many of you know, we've been engaged in a very long legal battle because when I won the primary, my predecessor, Stephen Richer, who was leaving office, and the old board got together and quickly executed a new agreement with an attempt to remove my budget, my computer systems, my IT staff, and most of my election duties. So they definitely tried to wall off my office from having anyone in there who wanted to make substantial changes. And I'm grateful to say it has been a very long fight. I am very grateful to my attorney who just spoke, to James Rogers, who is actually running for my old seat in the legislature. I know we need him, but I always need to express my gratitude for him, because I don't think we would have had the victory that we recently had and be where we were without James Rogers. Because the reality is that one of the things we found is that when it came time for us when it was clear that negotiations weren't going to work and we were going to need to file a lawsuit to get these things returned back, our lawyer who had been appointed for us told us, well, I am only been contracted to negotiate with the board. I cannot file a lawsuit against the board without the written permission of the Board of Supervisors. So we really would have been up a creek, but then James came forward from America First. He said, I'll take your case pro bono. And so he has represented our office at no cost to the taxpayers. The other side keeps saying, "Oh, this is wasting so much taxpayer money." I'm not wasting any of the money. they are wasting quite a bit to keep this fight going. But ultimately, guys, we are steadily winning. It has been a long slog. We had a huge victory in court. We will make sure that every election official, and that includes the board who is involved in elections here in Maricopa County, is following the law. And that is all that we have directed. So as this relates to the SAVE Act, look, these are things that we could do at a federal level that we have been trying to do and putting in place somewhat successfully in Arizona. What the SAVE Act is trying to accomplish, this is an 80-20 issue. It's more than that. I think it's a 99-2. No voter, Democrat, Independent, or Republican, thinks non-citizens should be voting. Okay, this isn't a controversial issue. Unfortunately, this issue has now been dragged out long enough that we've had messaging. This is something that we certainly need. James talked about getting us access to the SAVE database. When I came into office, we were the first county in Arizona to sign an agreement with the DHS to begin using that system. And as I said, so now all new voters who register to vote here in Maricopa County, we put their name through the DHS database to verify that they are citizens going forward. And so, you know, we would love to take this and expand this onto the federal level. Because ultimately, look, I am a right-wing conservative, no question. I don't have a lot of inherent trust for the government, okay? But even I understand that if there's anybody in government that you need to trust, it's the person who takes your ballot. Okay, because if we cannot, our republic is built on the idea that we can solve our disputes at the ballot box. And the only way that we can do that is if people trust the results that come out. And we can only do that through stringent checks and better systems and better processing so you can finally get the elections that you deserve. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate it.
Justin, thank you very much, and thanks for everything that you are doing to make such a difference here in Arizona and Maricopa and helping restore faith in the outcome of the elections, which is so important regardless of which political party you are part of. Next, we are going to have the chairwoman of Easy AZ speak, Marissa Hamilton Caldwell.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to see everyone here. Let's make some noise for Jenny Beth and Scott Pressler and Brick Suit and recorder Justin Heap. I'm so excited because I get to speak before you today after we fired tyrants in Maricopa County. We worked so hard for that victory, and now it looks like we might have to fire tyrants in the Senate. But I'll leave that for Scott to talk about. I also want, before we get going, I want to give a shout out to City Councilwoman Jan Dabauskas back there. Thank you. And I'm not sure where she went, but I want to give a shout out to Kimmy Dillon also for letting us use this beautiful location. So Jenny Beth said earlier today she wanted me to tell you a little bit of my story. So I'll keep it brief because it's a long story. It's like a decade long now of being involved. But the reason why I got involved seriously into what we call Arizona politics and national politics had to do with two different things. So previously I had worked heavily on crisis pregnancy issues, helping women in domestic violence. I'm a survivor of domestic violence myself, and I kept hitting the wall and trying to help women. It was frustrating to me because we'd have a woman that finally had the courage to keep her child. We'd do everything we could to get all the resources she needed. We usually were able to find resources for the first full year of that baby's life, and that's what our goal was, so that the mom could have stability. And all the time we'd see government get involved and just ruin it. They would terrorize the mom. They would oftentimes take the baby, and I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And so a friend of mine, Sam Stone, who is now Recorder Justin Heap's chief of staff, he had been the chief of staff for Councilman Sal DeCiccio, and he said to me, well, why don't you just come work for me in government and you'll learn how it works? And I was like, okay, I guess I could. I was an executive in the technology industry, in the food service and supply chain. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And so I got in and I quickly learned government doesn't work. But the one area that I insist that it works is election integrity, especially since I come from the supply chain, and so many of the same processes that we have in the supply chain of getting food and dry goods and frozen goods and medicine and equipment all over the world super fast applies to the same thing with ballots. And I thought, you know, if we can track our Amazon ballot, or our Amazon package, we should be able to track our ballots. Our ballots should be more secure and have more transparency than an Amazon package, for goodness sakes. And so when I did constituent services for Councilman Sal DeCiccio, I was dismayed when the election came around, and I'm getting all these calls from voters saying they didn't get their ballot, or they're being told they're not registered to vote, or someone voted their ballot, their early ballot, and when they went to show up, they said someone already voted their ballot. And I was just like, this is madness. This is insane. Why is this happening? And so then there was a call they had too many ballots that needed to be duplicated that year under Fontes, and so there was a call for people to go work, and they had an evening shift. So I said, okay, after I'm done at Sal's office, I'll go down to work at the recorders. And there's a duplication software that came from Runbeck, and in it there was an algorithm that suggested voter intent. But it didn't do it correctly. It was like 3 out of 7, 3 out of 9 times I would see that it was doing it incorrectly, but it only did it incorrectly going one way. It didn't go the other way. And so I thought, you know what, I know Bill Gates, the chairman. I know Bill Gates. I know some of the supervisors from the food service industry. I'm just going to go down there and I'm going to tell them that this thing happened, and I'm sure they'll get right on it. And they'll be like, that shouldn't happen. Let's fix this. And so I went there and I did public comment and I said the glitch that was happening, and that was the last time they allowed public comment for an election certification vote until like just recently. And then I went up to Fontes, who was the recorder at the time, and I told him, and he said, no, that's not a glitch. You were just getting the second round. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, no, it wasn't telling you what to choose. It was telling you what the previous team before you did. And I said, well, that's even worse, because you have people that are specifically trying to flip votes. You need to go and track those ballots and find out who the teams were. Then I found out they didn't recognize users. They had no idea who the teams were. And then I finally did a tour of Runbeck, and I just asked them, hey, you know that software, does it have some type of a thing that like tells you the voter intent? And he's like, well, we don't like to call it that. But yeah, that's what it does. And I said, oh, so Fontes lied. Now, here is the thing that was so insidious about that lie. Immediately after I testified, all of a sudden, my former abuser's ballot started coming to my house. His election mail started coming to my house. And when I called the recorder's office over and over and over again, all they told me was that, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go and talk to the man that tried to kill you 50 times and tell him to change his address. And I said, what? I was like, I can't do that. So I had to deal with him, with that ballot coming to my house and him contacting me election after election after election. It was terrifying. So finally, when Stephen Richer got into office, I knew Stephen Richer. He pretended to be pro-liberty. That was a crock of, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say bad words. That was not true. And I'm working so hard, Jenny. But the one thing that he did do is he did fix that. And so then when I ran for Phoenix mayor that same election, and I saw that my former abuser never changed his address to my house. I was like, well, that's weird. What's going on? And so then when Stephen Richer tried to cancel my voter registration for speaking out about election administration and having the crime of being friends with Carrie Lake, my gosh, I then got to see my in-person record, and I got to see that my former abuser never changed his voter registration to my house. And that immediately spurred me. And I was like, you know what? If they're willing to try to murder me, essentially, over being an innocent whistleblower where I just thought it was a glitch that just needed to get fixed, what is it that they're hiding? And the bottom line is that we already really have the Save America Act in Arizona. We already have documentary proof of citizenship required. We already require photo ID at the polls to vote. And it works great. You know, I did a text message blast through EasyAZ, but our organization name is Strong Communities Action, and I made it that name to sound woke so that I could talk to the Democrats when necessary. And it's a different language, guys. It's a different language. You got to know your audience. And so that's why our websites are bright and colorful. I made this super woke graphic. Like it was like hot pink and like hot green and like aqua. It looked like it was like I jumped into the 90s and made a graphic. And it was like, and it said, voter survey, your voice needs to be heard, some Democratic stuff. And so, I mean, we do need our voice to be heard, but like, anyways, you know what I'm saying. And so I asked them, we need to know your opinion. Do you want proof of citizen? Do you approve of proof of citizenship to vote and photo ID? And first, everyone immediately was texting back, no, we don't want the Save America Act. We hate Trump and blah, blah, blah. So then I would kindly reply and I'd say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to confuse you. I'm just talking about Arizona law. Currently, Arizona's law is we require proof of citizenship to vote and photo ID. And then they reply, oh yeah, we just want Arizona's system. We don't want the federal government messing with our laws. So you're good with Arizona's system? Yeah, absolutely. We love Arizona's system. It doesn't disenfranchise anyone. And I was like, thank you. That's so good to know. And then someone said, but I don't want you to use this information to tell them that I want the Save America Act. Okay, I promise I won't tell anyone you said that. But that's the thing, is that it is a normal thing to do. And, you know, when Jenny, Beth, and I were on tour all across the country, man, the Tea Party Patriots are amazing. They did an entire bus tour. They came here. I had so much fun with them on the road. And we went all across the country, and everywhere there was people that were protesting us from the radical left and indivisible. I think there was one lady outside. Someone had told me there was 30, and it freaked me out. But I then got confirmation there was only one. So sorry about the bag policy. I didn't want bad things to happen. I love you all, and I want us to keep us safe. And so one of the, you know, along the way, they'd be like, you hate women. Jenny, Beth, and I would look at each other like, you're a woman, right, Jenny? I'm pretty sure I'm a woman. I think we're women. And so I was like, okay, what does that mean? Why do you think you don't want women to be able to vote? Jenny, Beth, and I are like, no, we are pretty adamant about voting. Like that's a pretty non-negotiable thing for us. And they'd be like, if you pass the Save America Act, you won't be able to vote. And I'm like, well, I'm in Arizona. We basically have the Save America Act now. And at that time I wasn't married. My amazing husband is right over there, Jeff Caldwell, who, by the way, he ran Recorder Justin Heap's campaign, and he works in the office. And so I'm so very proud of him. He's working super, super hard. And so I'd put my ring up because I wasn't married at the time yet. And I'd say, well, I'm going to get married in December. And so I'm going to get to change my name. And they'd be like, you're not going to be able to vote. You can't change your name. You're not going to be able to vote. And I was like, I like to live dangerously, and I'm going to do it. So I did it, and I recorded it. And it took me 30 minutes to go to the Social Security Administration to change my name. It was super, super duper easy. I just had to show ID. I brought my passport, and they're like, no, we don't actually need that. And I was like, we already know that you're a citizen. Oh, the federal government knows that we're citizens? Who would have known? And so then I said, well, when can I go to the MVD to change my license? And he said, you have to wait 2 days. And I said, really? I can't just take this letter that you gave me? Well, you can, but then they're going to tell you that they have to check it digitally in our system. And I said, like a database? Yes, they're going to have to check their database to make sure your name changed. Sort of like the SAVE database. And he said, well, they check the Social Security database to make sure your name changed so that nothing else gets screwed up for you. And I said, how interesting. And that's just considered following the law? And he's like, well, it's a little extra step that we do, but yes, it's following the law. So I go to the MVD system, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm like doing my video, and I'm like, I'm going to go in and bravely try to change my driver's license. I'm told I'm never going to be able to vote again, but it is a sacrifice I am willing to make. And so I go in and I stand in line. I even went to the wrong line at first, and then they let me go to the right line, and like they let me go change my name. And then I was like, how do I change my voter registration status? I'm really scared because the left told me I'm never going to be able to vote again. And they said, oh, you just click that option right there and then it changes your voter registration. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah, and then you just sign this and then you're good to go. And I was like, that's it? Yes. And you promise I'm going to be able to vote? Yes. I do know the recorder, so don't lie to me. And it was fine. It was super easy. We had to pass a law because of what they did to Abe Hamadeh, where they moved people's voter registrations to other counties. And so we passed a law saying that you must give the voters a notification. They can sign up either by text, they can sign up by email, or they have to get a letter sent to them when their voter registration changes. The next day I got a text message, and you know what it said? You're registered to vote. And so I went online and I told the whole world, guys, I'm like the most genius woman in the whole wide world. Not for nothing, but you should just tell the board of supervisors to listen to me. Because I figured out how to register to vote and change my name after being married. It was so hard. So anyways, I mock because what else are we going to do with the left? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so here's the thing. We have to keep going on this. And the Senate, the thing that's so disappointing about the Senate is that Ruben Gallego knows that his voters want proof of citizenship to vote. Ruben Gallego knows that his voters want photo ID to vote. Ruben Gallego knows that he's been lying to his voters and that non-citizens have been registering to vote and non-citizens have been voting. Our recorder, Justin Heap, found that when he started using the SAVE database. And you know what? I just checked. Thanks, James, for mentioning it. When we started that lawsuit on the non-citizens, there was 50,000 federal-only voters. I just looked, and there's 43,000 total federal-only voters, but only 32,000 are ones that haven't shown proof of citizenship. That's a huge, huge decrease versus what it was. And so for everyone saying the SAVE database is disenfranchising voters, there's hundreds of, for every voter that is disenfranchised, which all that means is that a voter is made inactive and they get to show their proof of citizenship like everyone else. It is absolutely not disenfranchisement. It's enfranchising other legal citizen voters. For every voter that gets sent a notice and gets their inactive, listed as inactive for a month before they show their documentation. There's hundreds of thousands of voters that have been validated that hadn't shown their proof of citizenship that got validated in the SAVE database. So the Save America Act is actually a way to enfranchise legal citizen voters. It is not a disenfranchisement bill. And so some of you have signs about talking to Senator Thune. Tell Senator Thune, we want the SAVE Act passed. Call Ruben Gallego. Call, who's this astronaut? Yeah, Mark Kelly, that guy. The China guy, yeah, Space China guy. Tell him we just want Arizona law to be the same law federally, because right now we have a bifurcated system where if people haven't shown their proof of citizenship, they don't get to vote in our statewide elections. They can only vote in our federal elections. But why should they be able to vote in our federal elections? I'll just leave you with this. Many people don't know this, but the radical left has infrastructure globally. And when people go to airports around the world, there are signs saying you can register to vote in the United States. It doesn't say anything about being like the mumbo jumbo about being a citizen. Just you can register to vote in the United States, and that's called being a UOCAVA voter. Now, someone can be, as far as I know, and maybe someone can correct me, but someone can be a UOCAVA federal-only voter, and they direct them to vote in our Arizona elections. And so for every one of those voters that either hasn't proven they're a citizen, hasn't proven they are a resident of Arizona, that's another vote that's stolen from us. And so we must pass the Save America Act. We must do it now. There was a stat from a poll that I saw that said 1 out of 8 voters in swing states that have a Senate race coming up are going to be they want to stay home. 1 out of 8 want to stay home if the Save America Act doesn't pass. And so literally the Senate is disenfranchising voters. It is voter suppression, and we have got to keep up the pressure. So thank you for all of your hard work. If you are here from Arizona, which raise your hand if you are, I think everyone is, except maybe Bricksuit. Go back to the Easy AZ table after. We need help with writing postcards to register new voters. These are citizens that we've identified that are like-minded, but we need to talk to them and let them know why it's important for them to participate. We also have voter registration application forms back there. So get involved, make your voice heard. We make it super easy. We also have Turning Point over there, and then also get to know the candidates. Thank you all for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Beth, and please give her a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you so much, Marissa. And let's just give a huge round of applause to the Turning Point people. Thank you so much for being here. We love you guys, and we know that you're making a huge difference with the youth in our country who are very shortly going to be adults and voting, and you're making a difference for generations to come. So thank you all. All right, you've got signs. But in the back, we don't have signs. Could you help get signs in the back? Because I think we need to stand up for a minute and just kind of stretch our legs before we have our next speaker. And also, we need to let Senators Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego know that they need to pass the Save America Act. They need to get this done. Pass the Save America Act. Pass the Save America Act. Let's just hold up your signs and let's chant for just a second. All right? Pass the Save America Act. 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 Now hold these signs. Keep them up. Make sure you're cheering, because our next speaker is Scott Pressler, and he is coming on the stage now. Woo! Pass the Save America Act, Scott.
Okay, but guys, that was like, and I'm not being disrespectful, that was like Joe Biden energy. I know it's hot in Arizona, but we're gonna crank this up. Can we do that again? Can we do that again? That is the energy. This message is to Senator John Thune. Today is day 115 that we have been demanding the passage of the Save America Act. We gave you the House, we gave you the Senate, we gave Republicans the White House, and they are squandering this opportunity. You let him know with your cheers and applause how badly and desperately we demand this country-saving legislation, the Save America Act. You let him know. Much better. Thank you. Well, I am here in the great state 48, number one, because this November, we are gonna flip the governorship from blue to red. And it doesn't stop there, because we're not only gonna vote at the top of the ballot, but we are voting to replace our Secretary of State. We are voting to elect a Republican Attorney General, and we must give our next governor a Republican legislature. But I also come here with a warning, because I am a Republican, and an elephant never forgets. And I remember, as all of you do, what happened in 2022 on Election Day. What happened, my dear friends? 60% of machines had errors on what day? When do Republicans vote? Coincidence? People were turned away from their polling locations. They were told to go to different lines that were hours long, and with working class moms and dads and people of all ages, they couldn't wait in line. And that election was taken from us by 15,000 votes. Today, we should have Governor Kari Lake and the great state 48. And I'm not here to fight with you. I want you to know that I'm your ally, I am your friend. But I created my organization, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, called earlyvoteaction.com. And I want to explain why I created it. I never want a repeat of 2022 when the machines went down, coincidence, on election day, when in Nevada it snowed and we lost a Senate election by 8,000 votes and 150,000 registered Nevada Republicans stayed home on election day. And in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, where I now live because I moved to Pennsylvania just to vote for Donald J. Trump. I did. I know, isn't that crazy? It's a little crazy. They ran out of paper ballots on election day. So knowing that our opposition understands how we vote, they know that they only have to cause mischief for 12 hours to steal an election while they are mail-in voting, while they are ballot harvesting, while they are early voting. And so that's why I created Early Vote Action. And just so you know, in 2024, we hired 87 staff across Pennsylvania's 67 counties and registered 50,000 voters in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You might say to yourself, but Scott, that's not a lot of voters. I'm here to tell you that in the Senate election, we got 560,000 people to vote early in that election. Senator Dave McCormick flipped a Senate seat from blue to red by 15,000 votes. Yes, voter registration makes a difference. And yes, I do believe if we didn't get people to vote early in that election, we might have Senator Bob Casey. He might have won, because I think of our truck drivers that are out serving us. I think of our construction workers. I think of teachers. I think of pilots and police and healthcare professionals and firefighters. And I think of all of working class America that are busy serving we, the American people. And if we had not gotten out those 560,000, did you know that Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of War, Dave McCormick was the 50th vote for Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and J.D. Vance was the tiebreaker, and it was because of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I was so excited when we won because many of us felt that our election, the nation was saved by that. We elected, as I said, a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican White House. And I tell you, I've been trying to be nice with people. I've met with probably 90 members of the House of Representatives since the beginning of the year. And I've met with 10 members of the United States Senate on behalf of one thing, the Save America Act, because this is the most important piece of legislation that all of you care about. Am I right? And I want to do a little test for a second, because this is being filmed and I want people to see this. I want them. So I'm going to name 4 pieces of legislation. And when I name the legislation, you can either boo at me or you can cheer, but let whoever's going to be listening know how you feel about that legislation and if you want it or not. Okay? So let's play. The first piece of legislation, the Road to Housing Act. Does anybody know what that is? Good. Our Senate is prioritizing the Road to Housing Act, not the Save America Act. Okay, that was number 1. Number 2, the Brave Burma Act. Does anybody know what that is? Senate Majority Leader Thune, they don't know what it is. I'm so sorry. The Dignity Act. Do you guys want amnesty? It's amnesty. Thank you. The Save America Act. Kimmy here is with a wonderful organization that this is going to be going to higher ups and the levers of power. So you guys just gave her some very peaceful ammunition that she can show our members of Congress what you actually care about. And so ultimately, for 115 days, I've tried to work across the aisle. I've tried to be nice. I've been diplomatic. I haven't done any ad hominems. I haven't done name calling when I could. I've kept everything respectful with consummate, peaceful precision. But now I'm so sorry, Dark Scott is coming out. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you saw, but we originally gave Senate Majority Leader Thune until the end of April to pass the Save America Act before I got involved in Texas. Well, I was so irate, I decided to get involved anyway. We exposed a video of Senator Cornyn out of Texas doing a video in Spanish on behalf of Amnesty. Oh yeah, it's out there. It was hidden. It was a hidden link that we found, and as soon as it went viral, the link suddenly went private on YouTube. Well, for their $100 million campaign that they wasted, coming barely in first place, giving no money to Virginia when that was winnable, this $100 million campaign is not more powerful than we the people and a long-haired conservative over here. And so I make a promise. I promise that no Save America Act means we are going to fire Senator John Cornyn in Texas on May 26th. If you, and I really mean this is a warning. I give a warning to Republicans because I'm not just mad at the Democrats. The Democrats, I know my enemy. I know my opposition. I expect Republicans to be with us. I expect Republicans to give us what 84% of Americans want and demand and deserve. And if they won't give us what we want, we will take from them what they have. I mean it. I'm not playing. And in addition to the May 26th Senate runoff, which will be a day of reckoning, we are also doing a day of reckoning in the state of Indiana, the Hoosier state. We have Senate Republicans that refuse to redraw districts to support President Trump's agenda. And on May 5th, I've already been to Indiana twice supporting these candidates. And on May 5th, we are going to fire any Senate Republican and replace them with a conservative that will support President Trump's agenda. And it doesn't stop there. During Taurus season, you decided to anger a Taurus? We're nice. But any Taurians in here know, you're going to get the horns. We're not stopping at Senator Cornyn. Senator Cassidy voted flag laws as a United States Senator in Louisiana. By the way, red flag laws allow individuals to petition a court to seize firearms from people who are deemed dangerous. If the Democrats ever get into power, do you think those red flag laws are going to be used against us? 100%. And so I make a commitment after we fire Cornyn, I will be returning to Louisiana and we are going to fire Senator Cassidy that voted to impeach President Trump. It's going to be so fun because on May 26th, I'm only going to post one thing. I'm going to post one. I'm not even going to gloat. I'm not. I'm going to make one post. All you had to do was pass the Save America Act. That's all you had to do. And Attorney General Ken Paxton, God bless him, you know what he did? He put out a post and said he would be willing to drop out of the election if our Senate passed the act. Senator Cornyn could have kept his seat, could have stayed in power if he had only fought for us. Why I'm so tired of the Democrats, even in the minority, bossing around our majority. But nothing fuels my fervor more knowing that we are going to go after and hold these people accountable. And it will be in Texas, it will be in Louisiana, it will be across the nation, and it will be here in Arizona. Because Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego are no different. They won't give us what 84% of Americans want, and so next election, we are going to flip those seats from blue to red. And one last thing too, because we are going to do Q&A, and sorry, I just get so fired up. I don't mean to. But Justin Heap, what you guys have done taking over the county recorder position is unfathomably huge for your state, and I think is going to be, when people look at the great state 48 turning around and going in the correct direction, it will be because of people like Marissa Caldwell with Easy AZ. It will be because of people like Justine, and it will be because of people like our Maricopa County Recorder, Justin Heap. And I'm inspired. You know what I just did after listening to Justin and hearing that he independently reached out to the DHS to get the SAVE system, the systematic alien verification for entitlements here in Maricopa? I'm going to petition and ask every county election office across America if they will do the same and employ the SAVE system even in blue states across the nation. Justin gave me that idea and helped lead the charge, and very well could have just set a blaze today. And I promise you, as I stand here, we're not stopping. After you, I'm going straight to Idaho. Then Jenny and I are going to Alaska, not for fun. I'm not going for work. We are going to hold Senator Murkowski accountable. And there's a petition on the ballot to defeat ranked choice voting this November in Alaska. I want to thank, truly, can we give a rousing amount of applause for Marissa with Easy AZ. A rousing amount of applause for Jenny Beth Martin of the Tea Party Patriots. And the people of Arizona, you will make your voices heard this primary, this November, and we are going to defeat Katie Hobbs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that what you see with Scott Presler is what you get. He is genuine. He loves this country, and he is committed to making our country great again, and he is committed to making sure we have fair elections, and he is committed to making sure that Republicans understand they need to vote early and that it's important so you don't have the problems like what you had before. I am so honored to be able to stand side by side with him and work with him on this very important issue, and I'd just like to give him another round of applause. So while Scott was speaking, I got an alert from a signal group that I am in, and I need to just give you a little bit of news, because if you haven't looked at your phone in just a minute, because Scott was speaking so much you wouldn't want to. The president was evacuated from the White House Correspondents' Dinner because shots were fired. As far as we can tell, he's okay, and he was evacuated. The Secret Service stepped in and cleared the dais, cleared everyone from the dais. They had guns pointed towards the audience, trying to figure out where shots were coming from, and that's all I can tell because I was watching it on my phone, and that's really all that we have right now. X is amazing because you get information so quickly, but all of the White House correspondents were at that event, and so it's hard to find out everything that's happening because the normal people who'd be reporting on it probably had their cell phones jammed so they couldn't send signals right away. So anyway, we're going to hear more shortly, but I want you to know that that happened. And I think that it would be wise before we continue to just take just a moment and let's pause for a moment of silence and pray for our country. So if you'll join me in a moment of silence. Heavenly Father, please just watch over our country. Please bless our country. We want what's best for our country, and we are looking towards you and towards Christ to make sure that we follow the direction that you want us to follow for our country. Please be with the President and the First Lady and the Vice President and everyone attending that Correspondents' Dinner. Keep them safe, and thank you so much for the courage of our Secret Service officers today. Amen. And to all the Turning Point people, we love you guys, and I know that hearing that news had to be especially hard for you. So we just want you to know that we appreciate you, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we really do appreciate you. That's why we have to keep active. This is why we cannot give up. We have to work to get this bill passed. We have to work to get this bill passed. And we cannot, as Bricksuit was saying, we don't know what's going to happen between now and November. And there are a lot of people in Washington, D.C. right now who are already making plans and deciding what they're going to do when they're in the minority and how they're going to stack up the power and hold on to whatever power they can have while they're in the minority, while we're sitting here doing everything we can and putting it all on the line and leaving nothing on the field because we love this country and we're not giving up on it. And our friend was assassinated, and they're trying to assassinate our president time after time. There's no way I'm backing down, and I hope neither will you. In 2024, in January of 2024, Senator Mike Lee, Cleta Mitchell with the Election Integrity Network, and I were in a meeting, and I had joined by conference call, and we were talking. Senator Lee was giving an update on things that were happening in the United States Senate. Cleta gave an update about problems with elections, urging some action to be taken, and she described exactly what happens here in Arizona. You have to show proof of citizenship to register to vote, but the Supreme Court, as James, right? Got your name right? As James said earlier, that the Supreme Court said that you also must take the voter registration form from the National Voter Registration Act, the Motor Voter Law, the NVRA, and that law, or that form, which stems from federal law, is federal law is supreme law of the land, so you must take that form. So now you in Arizona have the bifurcated ballot, meaning if you show proof of citizenship, you can vote for president and governor and senator, well, president and senator and Congress and governor and all the way down to school board or whatever your lowest level office is. If, however, you haven't, and you're part of the 43 or so thousand people who have not shown proof of citizenship, you still get to vote for president, Senate, and Congress. And I heard this. I'd heard it before because when I started working on election integrity issues, I heard about it and it makes no sense to me. And so I texted Mike Lee and I said, we need to make a law this is ridiculous. We have to fix this because if Arizona wants to require proof of citizenship, they are a border state for Pete's sake. Let's make sure that we have proof of citizenship. And when you're talking about a state where fewer than 10,000 people decided the 2020 election, if you believe the results, but let's just go with the results on record. Fewer than 10,000 people decided it, and you've got over 40,000 people who haven't shown proof of citizenship. Yeah, we need to have proof of citizenship. And the federal government should not be preventing your state from showing it. That's how this bill got started. Now, it has turned in addition to being proof of citizenship to register to vote, it has also turned into voter ID. And Senator Mike Lee and Congressman Chip Roy and Congressman Brian Stile, who is from Wisconsin, and the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, have championed this bill from the beginning. And without Speaker Johnson being such a huge champion of it, I don't think it would have gotten as far as it did. And he has the toughest job, I think, in politics because he has such a slim majority in the House of Representatives. And somehow he is able to get them to come together and vote on the most important pieces of legislation and the things that the president wants to have done. They come together and do it. Unlike what the so-called leader in the Senate is able to do or not do. He has a bigger margin, and yet he can't get all of the Republicans on board for something that is so important. And it's so frustrating to me. The Senate is so broken right now. What Senator Mike Lee originally tried to do, so very quickly, that bill went through the House. It passed the House of Representatives in 2024. It did not move in the Senate, and we had Biden as president. So even if it had moved, we still would not have seen that pass into law unless he attached it to must-pass legislation, which they did not do. Then we get to, because they didn't want to do anything that would like shut down the government or lock up anything during 2024, like the Democrats have done with the Department of Homeland Security for over 2 months. For over 2 months, they did not want to do that because we had an election and they were focused on making sure that we got through, and ultimately we had good results from our election. Then they passed it again in 2025, and it went to the Senate where it fell like a lead balloon. So we went around the country trying to get people to pay attention to this very important bill with this bus that said, only citizens vote. And we would stop at truck stops and hotels and restaurants, and people would come up to us and say, what's up with this? Only citizens vote. And we'd go through and explain it very quickly, what we thought needed to happen, and they'd go, you have to have a bus and go all the way across the country to get Congress to do this? It's like, yes, and they still aren't doing it. And then in January of this year, they added proof of citizenship. No, I'm sorry, they added voter ID to it. President Trump said that he wanted it called the Save America Act. And actually, it's a great name. And he also wanted to limit mail-in ballots and to add some pieces dealing with only girls and girls sports, no men and girls sports, or boys and girls sports, and also no mutilation of children in our country with transgender surgery. These are 80-plus issues. They are common sense issues. They are things the United States Senate should be willing to do. So it moves through the House of Representatives, and it goes back over to the Senate. Now, under normal circumstances, you have to have 60 votes to even begin debating on a bill. What happened with this particular bill is it was actually originally a veterans bill. It passed the Senate, went to the House. The House stripped out all of that language, amended it, replaced the bill with the SAVE Act with both proof of citizenship and voter registration. And then they sent it back to the Senate in a mechanism called a message. That means they did not have to have 60 votes to open debate. They only needed 50 votes to open debate. we were told they could do a talking filibuster. And that would mean you get it open, and then you have a filibuster, kind of like what we saw in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And they would talk and debate, and eventually the Democrats would run out of turns to be able to debate. Each senator is allowed to speak as long as they possibly can for 2 speeches, as long as they don't lean on anything, sit down, or leave the chamber. So at some point, they would run out of time, or physically they would have to leave the chamber, so they would run out of that debate time. Then the parliamentarian in the Senate said, no, that can't happen. You don't understand. We're not allowed to do that. So the thing we thought you could do with a filibuster all these years, it doesn't work because of the way the Senate is. Now, the Senate could have overridden the parliamentarian, but they chose not to do that. So now here we are where they were debating the bill, and then to close debate and get the bill to final passage, you need 60 votes, which means you need senators like Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego. The Democrats, they don't care what happens to our country. They are willing to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, put our country at risk, and my goodness, they just had shots fired at an event with the president and correspondents in this country. And I blame the Democrats right now for it until they prove to me that it wasn't because they would not fund the Department of Homeland Security. They should be there putting the best interests of our country ahead of whatever their political agenda is. And they cannot do that. And then to top it off, because the Democrats are so bad, then we've got these senators like McConnell who won't vote for this, and Murkowski and others who simply will not vote for it. So we've got 4 who just this past week refused to vote for it when it was attached to the reconciliation bill, the funding bill for the Department for ICE and Border Patrol. So the part that was attached to it was voter ID. Voter ID, it's like the top issue of any of them, and they wouldn't vote for that. I do not, for the life of me, understand why they think that you can't have voter ID for elections. You can't check into a hotel. You cannot rent a car. You cannot drive a car. You cannot buy alcohol. You cannot buy cigarettes. I don't know. I've never had pot. You probably, even in the states where pot's legal, have to show an ID for pot. I was at the doctor yesterday morning, and I noticed they had this thing on the wall that, you know, they always ask for your photo ID at the doctor's office, right? And your insurance card. And I said, what if I didn't have a photo ID? What would you do? And they said, if you don't have a photo ID, we can't see you. At the doctor. At the doctor. So don't tell me that we can't have a photo ID, or that it takes months and months and months and months to implement. A gas station clerk can figure out how to check an ID. A person who is manning our elections can figure it out. It isn't that tough. So my charge to you tonight is that we do not let up. You keep making those phone calls. Do not give up with the fact, even though you have 2 Democrat senators here and you think they are immovable, you keep calling them. You keep calling and you tell them to pass this bill. This is what the American people want. It is a no-brainer, and if they're unwilling to do it, you are going to campaign against them and tell people that they were unwilling to do these common sense things to make sure that every voter in the country has to show proof, has to show a voter ID. And furthermore, that all the rest of the states, including your own state, have to have proof of citizenship. And so it cleans up the loophole that is in your state right now in the first place. That is what you need to do. I need you to do that. And then go get 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 other people and talk to them about this, explain what's going on to them, and ask them to make the phone calls as well. And then, if you know anyone in Kentucky and in North Carolina and in Maine and in Alaska, ask them to call their Republican senators who will not vote for this bill and urge them to vote for it as well. That is your call to action for tonight. Scott did you give the phone number out? I was so busy checking the, I'm stealing your thunder here. So the switchboard for the United States Senate, the Capitol switchboard, it's 202-224 3121. And you can take your phone down right now, type it in really quick, and then you can make the phone call when we finish. Again, 202-224-3121. And that'll take you to the switchboard, and you'll have to make 2 phone calls there because you've got 2 senators, so you need to call both of them. Yes. 202-224-3121. And if you want to, you can go to passthesaveamericaact.com, and we've got a way you can email your senators and take more action from there, and we've got facts and all sorts of information on that website. I cannot thank you enough for taking your time on a Saturday afternoon and evening to come here and spend the time with us. I appreciate you more than you can possibly know. I travel this country, I talk to the grassroots, I've been doing it for almost 2 decades now, which is not at all what I thought my life was going to be like, but it is what it is, and I love it. And I love it because you're what makes this country great. You are what makes a difference in this country. It is your activism. It is your commitment to freedom. It's your commitment to the Constitution. It is your willingness to stand up with a man who lost the election in 2020, and I say that with air quotes in case anyone didn't notice, and you kept standing by him, and you helped Donald Trump beat history and make sure he became president again. And all these naysayers, and they are online, they are on social media, they are in Washington, D.C., they are poison. They are poison because they want to discourage you and keep you down and not make you willing to keep standing up and keep fighting. And you won't let them do that. And I need you to take the same kind of spirit and energy that brought you here tonight and to go make sure that other people don't give up on our great country. It is because of you we are going to save this country. So thank you very, very much. Thank you. And now Scott Pressler and I are going to take questions, and also Justin is available to answer any that relate to the recorder's office, and Marissa can help answer questions related to Arizona specifically. So
yeah, I just wanted to give a brief update on the president. So all reports are saying that he's fine. There are some reports saying, yes, yeah, clap for that. There are many reports saying that the shooter is dead, but there are other reports of the shooters in custody. It's all the fake news, so I don't know which to rely on. But the good news is that our president and first lady are safe, and then there are other reports. Yes, praise the Lord. And then there are other reports that President Trump and the First Lady are coming and joining the correspondent dinner, and it's continuing. So we'll keep you. Yeah. So
fight.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop.
Fight.
Okay. So let's do questions. Who has a microphone for questions? And raise your hand if you have a question. Oh, okay, it's over here. So Eric has got the microphone, and if you want to ask questions, you can get in line.
Hello. My name is Kim.
Thanks.
Is it, hey, Marissa, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, my name is Kim. I'm still a little shook up about the news, so if my voice is
Let me
cracking,
just, I'll make it louder, but keep talking. It's working, it's just quiet.
Okay. And I first want to thank Scott Pressler and Jenny Beth and Marissa. You are national treasures. I mean, I appreciate you so much. You are giving us a voice, and you're helping me feel less helpless. Because every week I contact senators across the country, not just here in Arizona. And I get things back, even from Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, saying, you don't live in my state, so I'm obligated to first address issues from residents of my state. And I feel very disenfranchised by that. So the fact that you can go and make so much impact and help us join that movement is very appreciated. And so I have this question, because when I was talking to one of the clerks at one of the Senate offices, I said, I'm confused, kind of what you were saying about, I have to show a driver's license to go to a doctor's office. Why can't everyone show a driver's license to go vote? And they were saying, and maybe I heard wrong, but that it's not just a standard driver's license. It either has to be enhanced real ID or a birth certificate or a passport. Is that really true? Because I told that clerk, and I've left voicemails for Thune and everybody else, then why can't we create a website, email address, and mailing address, and a phone number that says, okay, you know what? Send in your request. We're going to comp you for 18 months. We're going to comp your birth certificate. Send it, your request, and President Trump signs an executive order or whatever it would take, and they comp that birth certificate. Take that ammunition out of Chuck Schumer's hands, because that's the only thing I ever hear him say. Well, people who are minorities can't get a passport. Why don't we just say, we'll give you your birth certificate if you're legal? So I don't know if what that clerk told me, that a standard driver's license won't do it or not.
Thank you for your question. No, that is incorrect. The Save America Act, which would require proof of citizenship to register to vote, but photo, voter, government ID, i.e. driver's license, passport, state-issued ID, any of those will do the trick. Now, if you have, like Florida, Governor DeSantis just passed the SAVE Act at the state level, did you know that according to this new legislation, I do believe by 2027, every driver's license will have whether or not somebody's country of origin on their DL. Therefore, a photo ID will serve both as proof of citizenship and the ID requirement, thanks to Governor DeSantis in Florida. But no, that county clerk told you misinformation. Shocker, is probably a Democrat.
So really, the objections are just as flimsy as they sound.
They are very flimsy, yes.
Okay.
And in fact, I would argue that in Wisconsin, they require proof of residency to register to vote. I know for a fact that if you do not register with your proof of residency, you may bring it with you when you vote on election day. And so I believe that the Save America Act will allow for discretionary power at the state level that you can register, but you will then have to bring your proof of citizenship and your government photo ID with you when you vote. The only person that will be disenfranchised by the Save America Act is an illegal alien, no American citizen.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm even more indignant now that this hasn't passed.
Jenny Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also an attestation aspect to the Save America Act too. And so how the attestation works is it says, okay, just give us the documentation that you do have. And then sign this document. It's much stronger than the current attestation on the federal-only voter registration form. And so it's like, okay, we're going to do a trust but verify. And so even if you're someone that doesn't have your documentation, you can provide what you do have and sign the attestation. And so that wouldn't be good enough for Arizona. But that's the other reason why the SAVE database is such a good tool, because it helps to provide another way for the It helps provide another way for the recorders to verify that. So there really is no excuse. The SAVE Act is even easier than, to some extent, than what it is in Arizona, although I prefer a lot of our Arizona laws. So.
Thank you all for your participation here. It's an honor to be here. I'm Aaron Kotzbauer from LD 25 in the West Valley. So I believe the Save America Act has proven how feckless our gelded, old, pathetic GOP party is, especially in the Senate. If you think more globally, the Senate has been in office 460 days of Trump 2.0, and he has 14 of 94 U.S. attorneys appointed. So we're not able to get justice for the COVID scam, for the 2020 selection malfeasance, for any of the lies around the J6 Fed surrection. But I appreciate you calling to light this crucial piece of legislation, because it truly is an 80-20 rule. I believe what needs to be done, and unfortunately we're powerless here in Arizona. I make 5 phone calls a day, 2 to 2 Democrat senators, 1 to a Republican congressman, 1 to the Speaker of the House, and 1 to the Senate Majority Leader. But we don't have power here in Arizona in the Senate. We need 5 votes to call the question via Robert's Rules of Order, and then we need 27 yes votes to kick John Thune out of office and get somebody that's more effective. So what would you suggest, Jenny Beth, from a political standpoint? Whose phones do we need to light up to get 5 GOP senators to call the question to potentially remove Leader Thune? Action, action, action. Thank you.
Thank you. So I can give you the answer. Here's the thing. This is what I learned from when we were in South Dakota. I can tell you what's going to happen, or I can tell you what we can try to do. Like, I can explain to you what the Senate is probably going to do, or I can tell you what I'd like to see happen. So I guess I need to know from you which you actually want the answer to.
Let's be pragmatic. I want to make sure that we can get done the most we can get done while President Trump is in office, and that's less than 3 years. Thank you.
Okay. The situation is this. We have 3 senators right now who are calling to get rid of the filibuster, and 3 senators who have led the charge on this bill. 3. So you've got Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, and Rick Scott. And you just mentioned we need 5, and right now we have 3. So it's possible we may get a couple of more, but I've been watching this now for the last 15 months, and we have 3 who are willing to go all out for this bill that 80% of Americans want. So I'm pointing this out to you to let you know that right now, I think it's easier to get this bill passed than it is to remove Thune from office. And this is coming from somebody who has removed quite a few speakers of the House, actually. I actually am kind of known for this. We have a reputation at Tea Party Patriots and Tea Party Patriots Action for removing speakers of the House. And we led the charge with Boehner. We prevented McCarthy from becoming Speaker initially. Then we got Paul Ryan. He left, and we said good riddance, and he would have had trouble had he. Well, he wouldn't have, because he gave up and we lost control of the House anyway. But then when the votes came with McCarthy as he was going in back in 2022, we were supportive of the effort to not make him Speaker right away. And then once the ball, we were not calling for his removal in the middle of the term, but once the ball was in motion, we helped ultimately get Mike Johnson. The Senate is different than the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives has to go back home every 2 years and run for re-election. And really, because of primaries, it's really every 18 months they've got an election. Within 18 months of going into office, most of them have an election again. So they're much closer to the people, and they're more responsive to the people. The Senate only has elections every 6 years. And because of that, they don't do what they're supposed to do until like the year before their re-election. And then you see Lindsey Graham saying things that try to make him sound like he's conservative. He's one that just stands out, or other people. So it makes them more distant. But these folks in the Senate right now, they are loyal to their leader, and we don't have enough people right now to remove him from his position. I think it's a worthy battle, but we only have so much time between now and November, and so you said pragmatic. Go ahead and you can add to it.
Here is my message. Right now, the reason why I've been going after Senator Cornyn so hard is because Senator Thune wants nothing more than to protect his majority. And we learned that from the spending of $100 million. Imagine how much $100 million could buy. That could be an entire field program in the great state 48 to defeat Katie Hobbs and elect Republicans down the ballot. That money was wasted by the NRSC. And again, they spend a dime in Virginia. That is such negligence, that is malpractice, and I say don't donate a gosh darn dollar to any of these because they're only going to go to the majority. Here's how I'm going to empower you, the people of Arizona. If you want to show them that it is they that work for us and truly mean it, I know that you're working for victory this November. Help us fire Cornyn here from Arizona. I have an app. This is a free app, the Early Vote Action app. I have text messages loaded right now that you, from the comfort of your great state 48, can send text messages to Republican primary voters that voted in the primary and ask them to support Ken Paxton and defeat John Cornyn. Nothing. I mean this. I need you guys to bring fiery rage to this. The anger that you have, I want you to show that. Help me defeat John Cornyn on May 26th. That will be the shot across the bow that these senators will be scared, you know whatless, and hopefully they will actually listen to us. So please do that. Download the app. See me after, and I will answer any and all questions about how you can help from the great state 48. Please.
Thank you.
Scott and all of you, thank you so much for all your hard work. So this, I think, has a little bit to do with the former question. My name's Christina. I live in Arizona. I've been here 25 years. I'm from Texas, so I know Cornyn is a rhino, and he should be gone. Why? Okay, so I have actually two-part question after that last kind of interlude. Why? So can we get Trump to endorse Paxton? Thank you.
Okay, and well, here's it, part number one, and then I assume you have part number two. I heard, I don't know if this is true, so don't hold me to this, and I am loyal wholly to the president. I heard that he was actually going to endorse Cornyn, but because y'all made such a big fuss about it, the president was like, oh, this is deeply unpopular with the American people, and so therefore I'm not going to do it. And actually, think about it. That's what makes our president so great. He is one of the few people that actually listen, which means that if y'all aren't being vocal and vocal constantly and consistently, then he's going to go, oh, I'm just going to go along with what these squishy Republican light senators want. So it is imperative here, but the fact that the governor, Abbott, Senator Cruz, and Wesley Hunt, nobody has endorsed in this. In my opinion, that is tacit approval for Ken Paxton. An unendorsement is an endorsement, in my opinion.
Amen. That's good. That's great. And then the second part is about the filibuster. And I know, Jenny Beth, you touched on that and all this, and this might be, it's very similar to the question before, but why can we also, as soon as we're calling to pass the Save America Act, let's also say, get rid of the filibuster. Can we also say that? I think we should. I mean, bottom line is if we lose at all any of the branches in the midterms, they're going to push for that. We all know that. So I'd like to, I mean, we should all be saying that. Filibuster out the window. And is it just because John Thune is still the head of the Senate?
Well,
is that why we can't get rid of it?
Well, I think actually adding that on is a good suggestion. So make the phone call and say, pass the Save America Act, get rid of the filibuster if that's what it takes. Get it done.
Amen. Okay.
So that is a very strong message. The same four senators who voted against voter ID on reconciliation are going to be the same ones who we start with who would not get rid of the filibuster. And so they're going to be Mitch McConnell's going to take all of the bullets for that. He isn't afraid to. He's not running for re-election, and he's willing to do that. And then Tom Tillis, Mitch McConnell's not running for re-election. Tom Tillis is not running for re-election. So they don't care what the voters say in their state. So that is an issue with those two. The senators have been conditioned to think that the Senate is the world's greatest deliberative body, and they must protect the traditions and the precedent of the Senate. And that is what they are conditioned to do, and some of them have been there a very long time, and so it's hard for them to break out of that.
Change it.
But here's the thing, okay, I agreed with that. And I think that getting rid of the filibuster, we better be careful what we ask for, okay? You have to think about the unintended consequences of anything that you ask for, because right now, if the filibuster is still in effect, and when Democrats control things again, then there is the ability to do basically what they're doing right now with the Department of Homeland Security. So you can stop things if you have enough Republican senators voting in bloc to do so. But I always thought there was the ability to have a talking filibuster. And what they have told us now is that there is not. And they also have pretty much said you can't pass anything without 60 votes, because you can't get it to the floor without going through 60 votes. The Constitution says you have to have, it takes a majority to pass legislation, but they have created this 60 vote threshold. And nothing can move without 60 votes. Nothing can get to a vote. They've killed it for a few things, but the policy legislation cannot move. And so I think the Senate is broken, and
it totally is.
If we don't do this, we're going to have major trouble. We're going to have major trouble. Harmeet Dillon has found of the 24, maybe it's 26 states who have loaded their data into the SAVE database. There are 350,000 people who are deceased who are still on the voter rolls in those 24 states. And that is not all of the states, it's just it's half the states. And she said publicly that there are about 24,000 non-citizens who they've identified. But they have not released that file. They are double checking, they're doing their due diligence, they're trying to figure out if the people have voted. So it's a qualified 24,000. 24,000 people, that's enough. When you think about how close the election was in 2020, the official results, in Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, that's enough this is a big deal. So I think that we have to make sure we're doing what we can to save the country. And this 60 vote threshold is a problem. And here's the most sickening thing about it. If we act like all of it isn't sickening. I mean, all of it's pretty sickening. If we were spending $100 billion, we could get if this bill cost $100 billion, we could get it through reconciliation with only 50 votes. Because the only way to do reconciliation is it has to have a real budgetary impact. Spending in this is negligible compared to the whole entire budget, but if you were spending hundreds of billions of our tax dollars, you can get it done. But because we're actually not asking for a lot of money to be spent, this is twisted. It's just craziness. So yes, tell them, pass it, get rid of the filibuster if you have to, but you need to save our country, because if you don't, the crazy radicals are going to take control.
I've got a solution for that, Jenny. Pay you 50, pay Scott 50. There's your $100 billion.
Yeah, but I cannot take money from the federal government.
I know,
against my values.
And before we move on to just here, we're always talking about the Senate. We're not talking about the House enough. The House is going to lose its majority if the Senate does not do its job.
Right.
The House is doing its job. People like Eli Crane are doing their job.
That's right.
And he's the
Congressman Governor Biggs.
Biggs is doing his job. So here's what I need you to do. Call your House member and ask them, first say, thank you for voting for the Save America Act, but I need you to be a no vote out of any legislation coming from the Senate until the Save America Act is passed into law.
Brilliant.
And if the Senate is going to hold up our House legislation, then we are going to give them the gift of holding up their legislation. And I say we pit the House against the Senate. And literally, Juan Ciscomati, he barely won his election. If he wants to get reelected, we need the Save America Act. Pit the House members against the Senate members and play hardball. And that means a no vote to FISA until we get our Save America Act. So please do that.
Scott, is it finally time we organize and start a trucker, biker, veteran, farmer, student convoy to Washington, D.C. and hold a big rally to say we want the Save America Act now?
I like that idea. That's a good idea.
I like it. However, I think we should start. I would like to see a national day of action in all 50 states, maybe at the capitals. My only one hesitation is we have very little protection in Washington, D.C., and I don't want a repeat of good-hearted, law-abiding people to have the government weaponized against them when we won't even have our Republican majority protect us in the majority. And I want to protect my people as one of those people that was for Stop the Steal and am still currently supporting Stop the Steal. I'd say anyone that wants to do the convoy, help fire John Cornyn on May 26th, and that will be more powerful than any convoy that we have in Washington, D.C. I promise you.
And Texas is closer.
But I love all of our farmers and truckers and bikers and students and all of those groups that you said.
I don't have a question. Hey, thank you guys so much. You're the only way we get information. I've been a PC for 14 years. And Scott, I was born in Pittsburgh. So there we go. Kindred spirit. When you were talking about the lines and everything when we voted, I just want to tell you my experience. So some of you guys, what they did to me was wrong, but I was very stubborn. When I was I went to my polling place. It was so wrapped around twice. So I went to the other polling place. But as I was driving there on the news, I was probably listening to KFYI back then, and they said, don't put your ballot in drawer 3. Remember how they kept, do you guys remember drawer 3? So my ballot wouldn't go through. And they said, oh, it's because your circles aren't all in. I said, well, that's a bunch of baloney. So I said, all right, I'll go and do that. So it still wouldn't go in. And I saw them printing the ballots because the printer was there and they were putting toner and all that in there. So I took down the lawyer's number that was on the radio. I went back in my car and I called him. I was standing in line. I said, listen, I'm not putting it in drawer 3. I'm calling the lawyer. So I went to the side. I called the lawyer. And I don't know if it was part of, because I did the audit. And I don't know if it was Roy Blem or whatever, you probably know, Marissa, who the lawyer. Brian, okay. So whatever I did is I called that lawyer and he said, absolutely not. Do not put it in drawer 3. You demand to talk to the poll head guy and you tell them you want to vote on the disabled computer. So I said, okay, the lawyer says that I can ask to vote on the computer. So he looked at me like he's never heard of it before. He went around and asking all the workers, hey, do you guys know where the manual is to let her vote on the disabled machine? And they're like, no, we don't know. I said, you know what? Just walk me to the computer. Give me the manual. I teach kindergarten through 5th grade computer. Just give it to me. I'll figure it out. That's how bad it was. But they kept pushing to put it into our fee. So I'm just like warning you, you don't have to listen to those poll people if you don't think it's the right thing to do. I just thought about that when you were talking. So I just thought, let you guys know, hey, don't let them push you around. And they were pretty upset. But it's like, we don't know how to use the computer. So anyway, I sat there for a while. Finally, I said, just let me do it. So I did whatever, and I got in. And I voted, and it was like, it took me maybe not even 5 seconds to get in. Excuse me, and maybe 5 minutes to vote. It was the simplest thing. So remember that. Just ask for the disability computer. That was just some important information.
So I just want to make a comment on that, and I don't know if our recorder does.
Recorder's over there.
Justin.
However, from our perspective, so EZAZ, we are the state affiliate for a great partner called Election Integrity Network. And we're all friends with the great Cleta Mitchell, who is, she saw the horrifying things that were happening in 2022 and elections before and elections since. And she wanted to give us a path to be able to educate the voters as to how election operations really work. And so, sorry, I'm going to move farther away. And so, I encourage you to get involved in EZAZ because we have an alliance called the Alliance for Better Elections, and we go through and we dissect how election operations happen. We just went through a MECTEC tour on the Board of Supervisors side. We've done a runback tour. We investigate as to what's going on, and in 2024 we did a voter education effort via texting. We texted 8.2 million times to tell voters how they can vote to make sure that their vote counts. And here's what I'll say to that. I highly encourage you to vote early in person. Now, why early in person? That's because you can still cast your ballot in person. If you're in Maricopa County, that means Recorder Justin Heap's office is the one that's legally supposed to oversee it. It's yet to see if the board will follow the law. But he is the one that's supposed to oversee it, and so he has direct influence over that process. And then you can go on to my.arizona.vote, or in Maricopa County, you can go to beballotready.vote, and you can look to see if your vote was counted. You can do that before Election Day. So if you vote super early, like get your early ballot, or you can even just go in person and ask for a ballot there at a voting location, cast your ballot, wait a couple of days. You should get, if you're signed up for text message notifications, then you'll get a text message. If not, go back to the ezaz.org booth. We'll show you how to sign up for notifications. It will tell you that your ballot was processed. The message might say it was counted. That's not what that means. It means it was processed. Your signature was processed. If your signature couldn't be processed, then it will go through a curing process, and there's a number of ways you can cure it. You'll also get a message for that. And so this way, by the time Election Day comes, you already know that your vote was counted and everything is good with it. Whereas if you wait until Election Day, which I like voting on Election Day. I love voting on Election Day. I have sacrificed that for the reason that I need to make sure that I can help other people when things get screwed up. This year we are expecting to have potentially a 3-page ballot. Not like just 3 front and back. It means like 3 separate sheets, potentially front and back. So in 2024, just having 2 sheets front and back was a pretty difficult thing to do. So I beg you, do not wait until Election Day to vote again in Arizona, because of the fact that and I say this with as much respect as I can to the leadership at Maricopa County that's not on the recorder's side, they plan to fail. They have planned to fail every single year. We go and we tell them, hey, you don't have enough locations. You don't have enough locations in these particular areas, and they don't care. So don't be glitched out of your vote. To an extent, we as citizens have to take responsibility for our vote. And we have all the tools to do that in Arizona. Not every state has a beballotready.vote or a my.arizona.vote dashboard. We do, though. And so we should take advantage of it, and we should tell our friends and family, did you check to make sure you're registered to vote? Did you check to make sure you're getting alerts? There are no excuses. We put in that law so that anytime your voter registration changes, it will give you an alert if you've signed up for it. And so sign up for that and get your friends and family and your neighbors, everyone signed up for that. Do not let them glitch you out of your vote. And you can do that by voting early in person.
Okay, Marissa, I absolutely have never voted in person since my kids were little. The only reason why I did that year is because Donald Trump said, wait to vote in person. That's what he told all of us. And that was a clue for them to cheat.
Yes, it was. And you can vote early in person in Arizona. You don't have, and if you're going to vote, if you want to vote early and not in person, still what I highly encourage you to do is take your ballot and drop it off at a voting location early. I recommend not putting it through the USPS system if you can avoid it, because then you know that you've taken a big chunk out of the supply chain that it can get messed up. So either drop your ballot off early or go vote early in person, and then you'll have a better chance of ensuring that you don't get glitched out of your vote, and just make sure you vote.
So I voted early in person, and I was expecting that I was going to be able to feed it into the machine like on election day, but you just put it in an envelope and you put it in a box.
Correct.
And the worker there said something to somebody that I overheard. She said, I don't know why so many people do this. It goes to the same place as when they mail it in anyway. So I was like, that kind of undermined my confidence of doing it that day, early in person, but I just filled it out and put it in a box. Some people were dropping theirs off filled out already, but they said it's the same path of getting there as a mail. So
the difference is that it's not going through USPS. And I'll give you an example of that. My husband and I mailed out 400 invitations for our wedding. The first round, only like 60 of them got there. And that's because we used a colored envelope and it couldn't read and blah, blah, blah. The second time, there were still at least 30 people that didn't get their wedding invitation from us. We did a mailer to our Pi Club member, our Easy AZ Pi Club members over a year ago. We are still getting returned envelopes from that from over a year ago. And so I'm just saying, correct. If you vote early in person, it goes in an envelope straight to the recorder's office, and then goes and gets tabulated. So I just highly recommend doing that, and because you cut out the USPS system that can make mistakes. They don't mean to, but it just happens.
Okay.
27 days of early voting.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Then Scott and I are available to answer questions and take photos afterwards, but we are supposed to have already ended, and we've gone a little long. So one last question.
Yes. Well, so Justin, we trust that if I always get the ballot, fill it out, and drop it off, we're sure that that's getting counted appropriately. That's why I don't love mail-in ballots, but you're encouraging us to continue to use those and trust them.
I'm saying take your early ballot and drop it off in person.
Right, that's what I mean. I fill it out at home, put it in like I was going to mail it, but I bring it and physically, so it's protected when I bring it.
So the reason why, make sure you are signed up for alerts. If you don't know if you're signed up for alerts, you can go back there and learn how to do it. If you're signed up for alerts, it will tell you that they scanned your ballot in, that they scanned your affidavit envelope, and then you can know that they got it.
Okay.
So that's why.
So thank you. And just last, do we ever think that if we can't pass the SAVE Act, are we going to ever get an executive order from the president who will ask for one-day voting in person and paper ballots and avoid all the political crap? Is that ever possible?
The president has already issued several executive orders. The thing is, with executive orders, they go away or they can go away with the very next president. So we need legislation. This is the president's #1 agenda item this year, and rightly so. The Congress needs to get this done. And frankly, it should be simple, because 80% of Americans agree only American citizens voting in American elections and voter ID. It's pretty simple. They should be able to get it done. But if it does not pass this year, and I'm answering this because you asked it, I'm not ceding defeat, but I'm saying if it does not pass, we don't give up, we keep going. our country was designed to make change happen slow. When it did not happen slow in 2020 and 2021 with COVID, we saw what tyranny was like around this country. And so as frustrating as the slow process is right now, it was designed to do that with checks and balances, and one chamber has to pass a bill and the other chamber has to pass a bill with a majority vote, not necessarily with 60 votes, and it has to go through the president to be signed into law. And our country was designed that way to protect our liberty. So as frustrated as we get, understand the frustration is the system is slow by design, and that design is what makes our country so amazing. But what we are also trying to do, the other thing that makes our country amazing, is that we have consent of the governed, and we're trying to ensure that it is actually the governed giving consent to those who are actually governing us right now. So just don't get discouraged. No matter what, don't give up. Like President Trump said, fight, fight, fight. He never gave up, and we don't give up either.
Jenny, you guys have the Numenar app, which is awesome.
Yes.
Do you have the Numenar app set up for the Save America Act?
We do have the Numenar app.
Can you tell people how they can access that?
I can not at this exact second. We have an app, and we have a webinar set up so that you can go and get access to it. And what I can do is tell you that when we finish on Tuesday, once we're back in our office, we will send everyone here an email with directions and explain what it will do.
Sure.
You've done the training.
Yeah. So I love Numenar, the Friends and Family app with Numenar, because what it does is it will allow you to take your cell phone contacts and connect them to the voter rolls and identify the voters that would be inclined to support the Save America Act. And then you can contact them and give them instructions as to how they can contact our senators, how they can contact Senator Thune, and push and also post on social media so that we can push and get more and more people involved in this. How many of you have already called your senator? How many have called more than once for the Save America Act? How many have called more than 10 times? I love this. So now we just need your friends and family to do the same thing too. It's a fantastic app. It is super easy to use. We'll start doing training sessions once we have that information out and start doing daily webinars. And then tell your precinct committeemen to help and do the same thing. Because if we do this in all 50 states, and Arizona should be an example for this, we should stand up and say, we love the Save America Act. We have it in Arizona and we want it everywhere. Then we can start a movement across the country. We can help Scott Pressler with all the hard work that he's doing. We can send a message to Cornyn that he's fired. And then in Arizona also, we want to make sure, and again, Easy doesn't endorse candidates, but I personally support, I research all of them. We need Governor Andy Biggs. We need Alex Collin for Secretary of State. We need Warren Peterson for AG, and we need Elijah Norton for Treasurer. If we take back our executive branch and we keep and expand our legislature, which is possible, then we can start a wave here in Arizona across the whole country that everyone hears loud and clear that this government belongs to the people. The people are the boss of their government, and if they don't listen, we will fire them.
So let's end on action. Please, you're going to receive an email from Jenny Beth about Numenar. You have the Early Vote Action app. You're going to call your members of the House to be a no vote. You're going to call your senators. You're going to sign up, please, with Turning Point Action about voter registration. And also, as I'm meeting all of y'all with Jenny and the team, if anybody's open to it, I would love to get videos for anyone comfortable going on social media saying why they support the Save America Act. And that would be very big. So can we give one last round of applause to Marissa Hamilton?